Okay, do you see me too? You see me, right? Okay. Thank you. I had a short night, but nothing a little bit of mascara won't solve. Can you hear me? You look good at it. Can you hear me well, or would you like me to use my earbuds? All right, I'll do that.
Well, good morning to everybody. This is quite exciting. It's always exciting to do something live. First of all, you never know if anybody's listening to what you're saying. Secondly, I think that the topic of today with the Girls Who Print Day, which we celebrate all over the world, is of course something that is interesting to discuss. So we have planned a little bit in short time, but that's typical English. We have now invited some very interesting women to have a discussion about all the things that we need, but we don't need. And the idea with this session is to create a room where we can talk open and freely. And I am just now trying to see if we can get Kyrit on board, who is the first. So I'm just giving her a call right now. And let's see if she want to join us. I know she's ready, so let's see. Hello, Kyrit.
Oh, hello there.
How are you today?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
A little excited.
As I just said before I called you, for me it's like whenever you go live, it's like there's this point of no return, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's so naked as it gets, right? Because if we do too many
Exactly.
errors, then it's just not too good, right? Before we start talking about today's topic, I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit. So can you please tell who you are?
Well, my name is Kairit Parker, and I'm working for the company Ironprint. I'm one of the partners, and we have created a platform for printers and for print brokers to optimize the ordering and quotation process. It has been very successful for us. We are using daily that platform, and today we are already actually see the need that the end client would like to use a similar solution. So today we are working on a project for end client to be able to automate the print ordering and quotation process with different printers also.
That sounds
doing.
Sounds great, Kari. For those who didn't catch your accent, you are out of Tallinn in Estonia, right?
Yes, I'm from Estonia, Tallinn, and the weather is terrible, and it looks like night today.
Oh, poor you! I think it's the hassle we have living in the north, right? Is that we have really dark winters, but really bright summers, right?
Yes, exactly.
Kari, also one of the things I did actually in the planning of this was looking a little bit into the countries, because one of the things that I believe is also in relation to today's topic is obviously the fact that I think that people especially women in some countries are maybe less fortunate than women in other countries, right? And Estonia is a very, very young democracy. You got your freedom from the Soviet Union, was it in 92 or 94? Or, that was in the 90s anyway, right?
Yes.
And you have a very young democracy, but you have a female president, and I think that you have shown a way where democracy and technology and being a very small country have really you've got some opportunities. How do you see that perspective in relation to the gender topics that we're going to talk about today?
I think this gender is still a similar problem as everywhere. Yes, we have the female president, but of course, as everywhere else, this is not okay for everybody also. So I think today's government is also not so open as many of us would like to. But yes, this is some continuous discussion, and I think all countries need to grow learning into it by time. So there is no difference in Estonia. Yes, maybe because of we have been so long in the part of Soviet Union, we are like more eager to move forward and learn faster, but again, we can't say that every person in Estonia is that way, but this is the direction I think we would like to go, and we would like to think of us.
When I have been at some various print events in the Nordic, where I also met you the first time, what strikes me whenever I travel in the Baltics is that there's a lot of women involved in print in the Baltics, right? Is that historical, or is it just because you are the smart people there, or how do you see that? I mean, at least in sales and in marketing, you have there's a lot of women. You know the women from K-Print, but also I have been working quite a lot in Latvia as well. A lot of women are in sales. How come is that?
I think maybe it can be connected with this historical background and this Soviet times, because one of the main things that in Soviet times was important that women should work as men. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not only in printing, it's like in every area we see women very active.
So when we are talking about the Me Too movement, I think there's a lot of aspects to it. One thing is, of course, the harassment and the all the things that are bad from the film industry, from the politicians, from everywhere, of course.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that part of this discussion, I guess, is also a relation to having equality among men and women. Do you think that based on the old Soviet mantra of everybody should work, that you are a little bit ahead of maybe the rest of Europe in this aspect?
No, unfortunately not. Yes, we had the way of thinking that yes, both men and women should work, but equality is not wasn't the subject in this issue. Still, we see the no balance in salaries and how well in higher positions that women are accepted. So this is a very big problem in our society still, because even though in Soviet times, yes, we the government saw that everybody should work, this is this balance between men and women. Still, men were in higher positions and women were seen as like just working class, like everybody.
So it's the old saying. I can't remember who I'm quoting from, but it's like everybody is equal, but some are more equal than others, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So when you look at your experience, I don't know your age, but you're relatively young, I can see. So I was just wondering, when you are among friends and you are among co-workers and also from your past experiences, do you think there's a movement in the right direction in relation to being more equal gender-wise, and also in relation to the things that we spoke about? I'm not talking about the harassments and the Me Too thing, but more about the men-women equality. Do you think that is something that is moving in the right direction in Estonia?
Absolutely, it has to be on the discussion, and it has to be clear and visible to move toward this equality. And as I said, I think it's the growing process. Because we are historically had this non-equality, so this process will take time. But if we don't talk about this kind of things, it will never change. So it should be very clear, and if people are feeling that they are not treated right, they should speak out. Whether it's like physical harassment, or is it like you feel like you get lower paid, or whatever the subject is, it should be out loud.
And I think that when the Me Too movement started in the US a couple of years ago, first it was kind of the film industry, and then it was like people on relatively public positions that stood up and start talking about this, and this movement have maybe to some extent at least given the opportunity for everybody to stand up against the harassment and things like that. Is that, for example, in Denmark these days, there's a lot of Me Too because some politicians, male politicians, have been being accused for things, and also acknowledged things that they did like 15, 20 years ago. So is that also something that is on the public agenda in Estonia?
I think yes, it is, and it's maybe more problematic in politics, in movie business, when you are in a small circle, and if you have chosen your dream career and you want to move on to a specific direction, then you are maybe forced into a position that you need to sacrifice maybe. In other fields, I think it's a little bit easier, because I've always felt that if I don't like something, I can choose the other way. But the bad situation will come when you are forced to, if you have not possibility to choose. do we even have this kind of this situations? Actually, this is a question, of course.
You can never know unless, I mean, that this is you know, I think that is one of the problems, or problems that is difficult in this subject to discuss, is that, you know, at some point it's very private. I think that one of the reasons why people not taking the discussions and the fights in when they are harassed while being at it can be because it's kind of what's it called? Not it's kind of a taboo maybe to talk about that you have been harassed or anything like that. So I think that is something that the Me Too movement is moving things ahead in that perspective. As you know, and maybe some of the people that are watching this knows as well, we have divided the day into three main subjects, and you have been invited to the best part of it, because that is the innocent flirts.
Yes.
Because we need to move into that, because I think that the relationship between both genders and in every relationship is the opportunity to also be flirting. Can be many different things, but it can be like an eye, it can be like smiling to each other in a special way, it can be complimenting each other in ways that maybe doesn't have any sexual kind of underlying tones or anything like that. But I mean, what do you think of flirting? I mean, I guess you have experienced it, right?
I guess I have. Yes. Well, I see like flirting and the working environment is a reflection from our society and environment around us. So actually, for me, there is no difference if we are talking about the environment we are in everyday or work environment. So all these different persons and all these actions we take are all also in this work environment. So yes, of course, I see flirting, and I think the flirting is part of everyday life also. But for this, yeah, the question maybe is if we talk about innocent flirting, when do we know that this is innocent flirting? I think the answer is that usually one side knows if this is innocent flirting. The one who initiates this knows if this is innocent or not. But still, we all have our heads, and we know how to react on it. If somebody flirts with you, you like it, you want to flirt back, then it's okay. But if some borders are crossed, then the other side needs to show that this is not okay. Yeah. And if then everything is accepted, the way both sides are okay, then I don't see the problem. But problems occurs when when this when no is no, and yeah, some part feels uncomfortable. Even and it's very important for both sides to react the way they want to be treated. So so for me, it's the main thing that everything starts from yourself. If you show the way you want to be treated, it yes. Usually yes. Is the way.
Yeah. Sorry if there's a little noise. It's just because I'm trying to get Cynthia, because she wants to join us already now, but I'm not sure she's in, even though I tried to join her. I'm sorry, because it's very interesting.
I can see her, I think.
You can see her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Morten.
Hi there.
I have arrived.
But I guess that you are. Have you turned on your camera, Cindy?
Yes, I did.
Okay. It's just because this
I
is
think
new.
You can see me, right?
I can see you. Hi.
Hi, yep. Gerrit. Nice meeting you.
But I have problems.
Can you see me?
Cindy, I call you.
Nothing we can't solve.
Cindy, I call you again and see if I can get you onto the broadcast. So hang on a second. I give you a call. So you're still with me, right, Karit? or what happened now? I just did something that I shouldn't do. So first we get Kyrit on board again. This is technology. You know how it is, right? Sorry, Kyrit. I hung up on both of you. I hung up on both of you. Sorry for that. Let me
No
see.
problem.
Let me see if I can get Cindy on board as well.
Yeah.
Hang on a second, because it was. I'm sorry about this. It's always interesting to hear interesting stories, and you said something very good. I just need to be both the producer and the technology guy and everything. That's unfair.
Yeah.
But you can just talk. I'm listening, and I think that everybody is interested in what you're saying. So please just continue. You're saying something really interesting here.
Thank you. I was talking about this situations that I've always taught, grown up with the knowledge that I have you need to treat others the way you want to be treated. So this is something I try to take with me all the time. So it's and I expect the same, that if I don't like something, this is my obligation to show it, so the others will understand it.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have maybe Cindy on the call here. Let's see if we can get her on here. Are you still with me? Hello, Cindy. Let's see if it works. It worked when I was testing it yesterday, so that is always so annoying when things are on the wrong side here. But then I lost Kyrit. I just try one more time to bring her into the conversation as well. So hang on a second here, Cindy.
No problem.
It's fantastic when you have new technology and you really want to make it happen, and then it's like, okay, she is on pause. Resume call. So I'm just trying to see if that, maybe you will be tossed out, then I will give you another try. This is crazy. Are you both there now, or is it only you? That's only you.
It seems only me. At least I can see only you, no Cindy.
Okay. See, that is, as I said to Cindy, that's a fantastic part of new technology, is that you always try. This is fun, because now I lost both. So we try last time here. Otherwise, we had to figure out something else. But we are calling the group here. So ring the group. Maybe this will work. Cindy, you are there. Now we just see if Kyrit is also there.
Kyrit is there.
Oh, so happy that it worked. sorry for this, guys. That was a little bit embarrassing, especially when you want to be the best TV station in the world, right? And then you can't figure out the technology, right? But
not at all.
Technology part needs to be in every live action all the time, so I think it's totally okay. Otherwise, it wouldn't be live.
No, that's true. So I'm trying to see if we can. Now we have a view of the three of us. Cindy, did you listen to what Kyrit was talking about in the?
Yes, of course I did. There are a lot of points where I was just like constantly shaking my head. So I recognized a lot of what you were saying. So yeah, I think we're both pretty much in the same situation sometimes. So yeah, I could connect very easily with what you were saying.
I'm happy to hear.
One of the things that I would like to ask you about, Cindy, because you are, for those who don't know you, you are from Belgium. So you come from a couple of thousand kilometers away from Kyrit, but the scene that Kyrit spoke about from a society perspective, is that similar to how she explained it in Estonia?
So is it similar to what? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
No. Yeah. I was thinking whether Kyrit spoke about that, for example, when she comes from a country that was part of the Soviet, where everybody was supposed to work, both men and women, And now situation is that both men and women are working, but maybe not treated equally. Also, salary-wise, things like that. Is that something that you recognize from Belgium as well?
Me personally, not. No. I'm very lucky to say that. I've always been in companies where it was absolutely not done, where we were always treated equally. But I have heard from companies where it is still the case, usually bigger companies with a lot of structured approaches, and whereas a woman, indeed, you kind of need to profile yourself a little bit more. So that's already something that is unequal. And then pay-wise as well. Partners in companies that get paid less because they are a woman. So yes, it does happen, Morten, also in Belgium. But I have been very lucky. Of course, you never know, but I do.
Yeah. But I think that the conversation about Me Too and also equality and the gender politics is of course that I think that the three of us, regardless that I'm the outsider here in this discussion, I was just thinking that we are maybe the fortunate people, right? Because we are on positions where we can stand up and talk against inequality, and maybe also talk against men who are abusing situations that we don't want, right? And how can this discussion help also the women that are not in positions where it is so easy to just say no?
Well, I think in our conversation, something that we need to highlight, something that you put in your introduction for this discussion, is that I think women in a position that is less high up or less strong, so to say, I think they should look out for people that mean well. I think they should look out for people that can mentor them, can help them frame the situation. It is something that I feel very strongly about, and that I try to do myself, is to is to be on the lookout for people that are more junior to start with, but also the more senior. It's not because you're older that by default you are more experienced or stronger in that type of situation. So we all need to look out for one another, female and men, by the way, because there are a lot of young men out there that also are very uncomfortable in some sort of situation. So I think if we have this conversation, and there are people out there that are less strong or strong-willed, or in that position where they cannot always say no, my advice is to go and look for someone that can help you, or at least listen to you and help you put things in perspective. I think later on we will talk to one of my dear friends and colleagues, Maya Stiles, and there too we kind of are on the same page. Like, we need to help people put things in perspective.
I would like to ask Kyrit, because what Cindy is talking about is also the mentor role, and how you can support both young men and women. Is that, I mean, the reason why I think this is so important, and I also appreciate that you bring the young men on board to this discussion, because I think that, my wife, she said to me, why do you take this discussion? Why are you inviting? Because you are so not Me Too. And I said to her, I think you misunderstand me, because I think the problem is not whether it's Me Too or not Me Too. I think, for me at least, it's also the ability to talk openly about this. We live in a society where sex sells, right? I mean, we are exposed to sexual messages in marketing, from soda water to burgers to cars to anything, right? So for people who have grown up in all these new media kind of thing, it can be difficult to actually navigate, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree that only talking about it openly will open up more people to talk about it, and this is the only way that this can move toward I can say normality, but for someone it's maybe not normality. So yes, I think it's time to understand that this kind of games shouldn't be situation for entertainment. And if I think mentoring is should be not only the way that somebody will seek for mentors, but as mentors we should maybe seek and see the persons in need. I know a lot of situations that yes, we see this Me Too situation, but nobody reacts. It's more like let's see what happens. But I think this is something we should avoid too. Yeah, maybe it's interesting to maybe analyze how some person will react. But if we see that they are already in trouble, we should give the helping hand, not to say, oh, okay, she or he didn't manage, so poor poor thing.
Yeah.
This is totally wrong act from my point of view. So yes, for seeking mentors and for offering our help and guidance, I think it's the same importance.
Yeah. I get actually a question via the chat right now, and kind of because that is extending a little bit to the discussion we have here, because it's a person who doesn't put his or her name on it, but does English have any female presenters? What is English doing to promote women in a male-dominated industry? Would have been great for a woman to have moderated this. Let's start with the last one. Is a room where I, as a male, moderate this discussion at all okay? Or should it always be women that moderates women?
From my point of view, I don't see the difference.
And you, Cindy, what do you think?
No, I don't see any difference either. I think the approach, type of questions, the interaction that you facilitate, that is important. That's the focus, not whether it's a man or a woman.
That was also why I decided to do this, because we have women on board of English. To answer the question, we have Tanya in Brazil, we have Carla in Mexico, we have Petra in Germany, we have several women in our operation in the UK. So I don't think it's not because we are not having women as part of English, but for me, and that is everything we do at English, is basically that the story, the platform, and the discussion is the important thing. And I think that if we are talking equality, I think it's very important to have both genders represented in a conversation. I'm not trying to opinionate or anything like that. I'm just trying to give a platform where we can hopefully freely talk about these things. But that was at least comment. It's great that people comment on things, right? So we are going to kick you out, Kari, because I want to know more about Cindy. So let's see. Let's see. I will see if I end up kicking both of you out, or I take you out, of course. Thank you very much. I will give you a call later just to talk to you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay.
Nice meeting you, Kari. Bye.
Okay, bye. And Cindy, then you are on screen with a male.
Oh yeah. I'm so not okay with it, Morten. Okay.
Are you not okay with it? Okay, sorry. No.
I'm kidding. I think I understand the question, but again, it's the topic that is relevant, and the way you go about it is relevant.
I can tell you one thing that surprised me a little bit, because we both know Deborah Korn, and I love her from the bottom of my heart. But when I was attending one of the Girls Who Print events at Print 18, that's a couple of years ago, there was a panel debate where there was one woman, I can't remember her name, but she stood up in the crowd, and basically said that she found her printing company better because it was all women employed. And I was a little bit surprised about it, because for me it's a lot of these things in these debates are maybe more about having the right skills, and then of course giving the same opportunities. So we basically get the same education, the same salaries, the same opportunities, and nobody's is looking into your sexuality, to your gender, to whatever. What is your opinion about that?
Yeah, I think diversity is very important. I think we complement each other. I have many male best friends and colleagues that I turn to when I need an opinion or a different perspective on things. Because there is, Martin, let's be honest, of course, there is a difference.
Oh yeah.
And so we need to embrace that.
I love differences. I love diversity.
Yeah.
It
Like you said before,
it would be a shame if we were all robots and look.
Sorry?
It would be a shame if we were all robots and just the same, right?
Absolutely. And so what I wanted to say is that until it needs to be equally divided, the work, the pay, everything needs to be in balance. If you have that, then we're all only reinforcing each other and helping each other. So no, I wouldn't say an all-female company would be better or an all-male company would be better. I think a good balance between both is important. And then I think also important is the fact that we're so different, and the fact that there's that innocent flirting bit. You kind of also push each other to doing more and doing a better job, or maybe changing your perspective. And by changing your perspective, you grow.
Yeah, that's right. And that was the reason why when Deborah initiated the Girls Who Print 11 years ago, I don't know if people know about it, but a lot of people in the industry, both men and women, they felt that she was talking down to women by calling them girls. And I was just like, we start as boys, we start as girls, we grow up, we get our things like that. And I think that Girls Who Print is a term that for me, and maybe not for you, but maybe for me, it doesn't really change the perspective. I think the important thing about this agenda is that we can talk about the problems, and the reason why I wanted to do this contribution to the discussion was because with the Me Too thing is that if we end up in a situation where you can't flirt, for example, as this is a topic of right now is, I think that we lose some of the energy between the genders, because that is also how to, and I'm not saying that it can be a problem. I'm just saying that it also fuels some energy, in my opinion. So, what is your opinion about that? You speak about the mentorship, which I like a lot. But I also think that you said to me before we started this session that you are sometimes a little bit unpolitical in your own ways of acting, right?
Yeah. For those of you in my team listening, I apologize for all the bad jokes I make. So yeah, indeed. First of all, Morten, I'm a 43-year-old girl. I will always be a girl. It's the inner girl. So I never found it as a negative term or talking down to women if you call them a girl. But coming back to indeed making inappropriate jokes, we have a team of young and elder people, or older people, not older. And we have this dynamic indeed where we jokingly fuel that energy. We sometimes by making jokes, we take the sting out of a situation.
Yeah.
There might be some stress or level of stress that you can just easily make go away if you just make a stupid joke that might be sexually tinted. But again, it's very important that you don't cross that line. And where is that line? When is flirting still innocent, or when is joking still innocent? That's where you as a group define the norm. And that's what I meant. So Karen, was right. Gerrit was right about not only seeking mentorship but also giving it and making sure that you're aware of what happens in a group or in another group. You can joke, you can make very inappropriate jokes, but you need to be aware of the effect. Sometimes you're not aware yourself, so that's when other people can point out to you like, oh, yeah.
That was all you were crossing the line, because I was one of the reasons why I also wanted to invite people from different parts of at least Europe and India, and also from different, I think, ages and different positions like that, was also because I believe that line, and that I think it's also very cultural. My colleague Henrik, he often says to me, "Morten, your humor nobody understands. It's a Danish humor." I think that actually you and my humor is maybe very much alike, but yeah. I was just thinking that maybe there's we are living in a global world. We see people from other parts of the world, and you behave different because you have different cultural backgrounds. Do you think that this is maybe also part of the challenge in this Me Too, that sometimes if people, let's say that people come from another religious background, where the culture and how you communicate is way different from the culture that you live in, for example, is that something that could be part of the reasons why some people don't know the boundaries, or some people don't know how to behave in relations that are social, or what do you think of that?
That is indeed a challenge, something that we need to be mindful about. So first of all, you need to be aware of those differences, and keep an open mind, and don't just assume that your culture and your type of humor is it. You need to be aware of the fact that other people might be sensitive about whatever you're saying. So first of all, awareness. But secondly, it's kind of something you need to try out is not the right word, but you also need to open up for other cultures, and kind of expect from other people to that too. And that's why you have little moments where you try out different types of humor and be very respectful to one another. I have many friends from all over the world, and after a while they get to know you, vice versa. But that doesn't happen overnight, one. And two, the fact that we're now in lockdown, that there's no travel. I know you're suffering too, Morten.
Yes.
It makes it more difficult to maybe adjust to new people and their cultures and the way they behave. It's harder to read body language and to understand if you're offending someone or not via a conference call or via email. So that too you need to keep in mind. So yeah, some sensitivities, but again, try not to totally lose yourself. There needs to be some humor and connection and emotion in what you do.
So I totally agree with you, and I also totally agree with you on that when you get to know each other better and more on a personal level, then you get to a level where I think they know that, okay, you have stupid inappropriate jokes, but that's part of who you are, and the joke was funny if you listen to it and don't take it personally like that, right? That is of course one thing, but if we elevate this to on society level, you never get to know actors and politicians and famous people and all the ones that are on the magazines and the ones that stand up in front about being harassed by typically men. And that is, I guess, that elevates the discussion to something that is a little bit different, right? Because on a personal level, we get to know each other, we understand and respect, and maybe also to some extent say, hey, Cindy, that was not okay, kind of thing, right? Because we can talk to each other. What about, I mean, because you would never do something like that as a marketing manager, you would never do things like that in relation to your, let's say, chili publish marketing. There's fine boundaries in how you communicate outside versus how you communicate with people in the organization, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that is, for me, a challenge. So I am a CMO. I am a more senior profile within the company. I have a team that I manage. And I also have a reputation that I need to kind of maintain, bad or good. But for me, yeah, you know me, Morten. I'm very outgoing, always smiling, making jokes, and so often I need to keep that in mind when I talk to my team members or with my colleagues or my peers, because you do get perceived differently if you are like that. So, and if you don't have the time to know these people and that they know you, and so that they know, okay, this is Cindy and this is how she works, and the way, because she smiles and she makes those jokes, it doesn't necessarily mean she's less professional. You don't always have that time, and with your team as well. For them too, it's sometimes confusing because you're the boss and you need to take harsh decisions, but on the other hand, you're joking around. So that is a very difficult balance to find for someone like me in my position. There's
So
probably more people like that out there.
So now we're talking about this, but this is something that you are thinking about and aware of pre our session here today as well? I mean, this is something that you think about, right?
Yes, absolutely.
In that perspective, do you think there's a difference between men and women, how they, get along with these kind of considerations?
I think it strongly depends on the personality, because I do know men, a lot of men that are very that are aware of this, and that they will question their actions and their jokes. One of my best friends is in a high position, and yeah, I'm pretty sure he has that issue too. But then I know other men and women that just don't care. So I don't think it's gender related. I think it's a personality trait. Empathy and making sure that everyone's okay, not hurt, even if.
If we take it out of the chili publish sphere and take it to, again, I try to with the society, because I think that with the and that was one of the questions I also raised in my invitation to you was has the Me Too movement has of course brought attention to some unquestionable problems in between men and women is particular, right? But has that, in general, in your opinion, made the conversation easier? Is it more legit to talk about these things, or do we also get more sensitive in this discussion?
It definitely opened up the discussion. I think before Me Too, #MeToo, I think it was out there, but not addressed as much. It was definitely something that needed some more conversation. Because it is out there, it is happening. So unless we don't talk about it, nothing's going to happen. So I think this whole movement made a lot more people aware of the fact that it happens. There are people that are very empathic and understand and see and intervene, like Gerrit was talking about earlier. But then there are people that are kind of oblivious and didn't realize. Now they do. They do, and that was the biggest help. It made it easier to address it, to label it, and to deal with it, and that is super important. Did it make people more cautious, more sensitive? Yes, that too. But there's always there's two sides to a medal, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And so I can tell you that unfortunately I got this idea for this live session too late, so that was a little bit difficult to get attendees. We wanted to have 9 people so we could continue to 2:30, and we got fortunately 7, so that's good. One of the things that I can tell you, I think I have written to more than 20 women asking if they wanted to participate in this one. And you said also no first because of timing, right? But I can tell you that kind of funny reactions have been that one person said to me, but I think this is not something to be talking about on English. This is more something that we should talk about in labor unions and in federations, and more on a more political, because this is where something can, you can take more actions to it. This is the discussion, but the actions legally, morally, and these kind of things can be imposed in different ways. That was one thing, one person's view. another person's view was that no, I'm not interested in Me Too. I don't think it's a problem. I don't, kind of thing, right? And I was just, because that was like the two really different point of views in why they didn't want to participate in this discussion. So is the challenge for the, I mean, I think that we have already now established, both with you and Kyrit and the talk we had for the past hour, that there's unquestionably issues that needs to be addressed. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. And of course there are people that are, crossing a border which they shouldn't. But I'm just wondering if people also, to some extent, can get sick and tired of this discussion, because you hear maybe sometimes stories that are like, is that sexual harassment kind of thing? And I'm just wondering if the debate can be, taken off track because of these discussions.
Mm-hmm. You mean that it's wearing off a little bit, that people get tired of? Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of listening to Corona news, for example. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it's not important, but it's just like, can't take it anymore, right?
Yeah.
And then I hear in Denmark there's a politician that just got fired because he apparently put his hands on a woman's leg 20 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And he didn't do anything else but that. And then he can't be a leader of a party. I totally agree that it's inappropriate if you don't want it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you have these discussions in ways where it becomes like so saturated that you actually don't get into the core of the problem, helping people that are violated and that are in positions where they have less opportunities to say no. Do you get my point?
Yes, I do, and I agree. And people might get tired and saturated with stories that are at that level. I understand that person shouldn't have done it 20 years ago.
Of course.
But time
was also different.
Yeah. Well, time, and that's what the whole Me Too conversation has changed already.
Of course.
So let's already be thankful for that. But like you said, Morten, there needs to be some scale too. And I think in some situations, it's not always black and white.
No.
There's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
There is a lot of gray. And then again, it's not one person, it's multiple people that need to address it and discuss it. But saturation, yes. And is it going to hurt the real important cases? Yes, probably. There will also always be situations where it's not always clear. Again, black and white. There's a lot of gray, and that's where we need to find the balance.
Should we? It's about time we should invite Nidhi to participate in the call. Do you know Nidhi?
I don't know her personally. I looked her up on LinkedIn, so I'm looking forward to meeting her.
She is nice, and I'm just figuring out how I can add her to the call so we don't throw her away, because we don't want that to happen, or throw you away. And I think I have cracked it, so let's see.
Well, yeah, you succeeded earlier. Well,
with a little trouble.
Still on the phone.
So while I'm trying to fix this technical thing, what do you think of this of this session so far? Is it something that we can use for anything, or how do you think about it?
Well, I think it was. I'm only the second one, but I thought it was really interesting to hear Kyrit's point of view. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I'm not sure.
I think it's Kyrit, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay.
I'll check with her later.
And now we have. Hello, Nidhi.
You succeeded.
How are you?
I'm good. I can't see. Oh, now I can see you. Oh, so good to see you, Nidhi. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Hello, Cindy. How are you?
Hi, Nidhi. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, same here.
We will introduce you in a moment, because in 10 minutes we will kick Cindy out of the conversation, and we will talk about who you are. But you are from India.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and as you know, Cindy is from Belgium. And have you frozen, Cindy? Or are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, that's good. Your camera seems to have frozen from my perspective.
Okay,
Can you
might
turn
be
it on and
because
off
you
again?
added.
Turn your camera on and off again. Just trying to see that works. Now you are not frozen anymore, so that is better. So,
Okay,
Nidhi, did you listen into some of the talks we had with Kairit and Cindy here?
Yes, I've been there since starting, and I'm really enjoying this conversation because I never felt I'll be part of such discussion, right? So this is one of for me, but I really thank you for bringing this topic up live and then so smartly, being the host and making us women speak about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very smart of you. But yeah, I really enjoyed the discussion. It's very candid, very honest, and I know the points that Kairat and Cindy have made makes a lot of sense. So yes, I enjoyed the discussion so far.
That's great. You live in Ahmedabad in India, and Ahmedabad, for those who don't know that, that's a city with about 11 million inhabitants, and it's in the state of Gujarat, and
Yes.
it's a place where you can't have alcohol legally, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's called the land of Mahatma Gandhi. I hope
yeah.
people know Mahatma Gandhi, and so it's a completely dry land.
It's a
So
dry
no,
state, yeah.
yeah, it's we call it a dry state. So yes, there I am.
In
But I keep traveling here to different parts of the world. So yes,
the reason why I
and
was
I love this place. I
yeah,
love this place.
yeah. The reason why I was thinking about asking you about this, because in relation to alcohol, was if that makes your state better in relation to sexual harassment and Me Too in relation to, because I mean sometimes when alcohol goes in, the brain goes out, right? And I was just wondering if that, Cindy, you know that, I know that.
See, I would answer it that way. I mean, there is no scale where I can measure whether the alcohol um, enhances the chances of Me Too or not. Nobody can say. It's a human trait. It's like, but yeah, certainly. Uh, being a dry state definitely brings more safety to women because at least you can go out at night without fearing that there will be people walking on the road with their bottles in hand and you'll have some misbehavior because it's practically 100% banned here. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know people have ways of getting it and doing it in their homes, but making it legally, illegal, definitely reduces the chances. So, yes, if you see the Indian perspective and if you compare this state with respect to other states like Maharashtra, Mumbai, or Delhi and Noida, definitely this makes it a safer place per se. But yeah, I don't know if we can relate it to being a dry state or not, but especially Gujarat. Why? Because uh, from ages, this place has been considered a woman-oriented place. Women here are more independent. I think it's because of the local culture. In India, we are a very diverse country, right?
Oh yes.
And if you compare the culture from Rajasthan to Gujarat to Maharashtra, you'll see subtle difference in the way people think, their cultures and traditions. And Gujarat, for ages, has been considered a state where equality and woman oriented, you can say, mindset has been prevailing for many years.
That's
So I
good.
think that also makes it safer, you
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Cindy, we didn't touch upon it before, but is alcohol one of the? I mean, I think that I read a survey in Denmark that Denmark is probably the country in the world where you drink the most alcohol.
Okay.
I
Good
don't.
for you.
I don't know if that influences, if there is any statistics on sexual harassments or flirting or misbehaviors or things like that. In Belgium, you're famous for beers, and we didn't talk about. Do you think that part of, or I would like your input on this, because one thing is that we have work-related things that relates to, you know, equality and Me Too and flirting and things like that, but also the time that we spent with in public space, like on bars and discos and nightclubs, things like that, has changed dramatically over the past maybe 30, 40, 50 years, at least in Europe. So is that also something that we can, you know, blame for these challenges?
I think there was always sexual harassment, whether it was in a bar or pub or a club or whatever. I think alcohol does play a part in it. I've seen it firsthand, where very shy people turn into like the biggest Casanovas. So yeah, there's no. I'm not sure if there's a survey that proves my point, but I would say that consuming alcohol loosens up people and might clutter their good sense, their common sense. So yeah, but bars and clubs, one thing that's probably an area where people are more open to being a victim of sexual harassment at some point, but again, more often can still be at work or outside of work. Or
I'm not trying to dismiss or find any reasons for this. What I wanted to and maybe people feel that this is not so interesting, but I think that the reason why I find it interesting to touch upon different things is that one thing is that we might be more sensitive to things. You know, in the 60s, I think that there was a very at least in Europe, there was like a sexual liberation where men and women were, you know, allowed to do things that even today isn't really seen as appropriate, right? And then the 80s and the 90s and the zeros, maybe they came up with, okay, we have a different moral codex, but maybe also some of the things comes from outside the internet, our multicultural countries, consumption of alcohol, and not as excuses, but trying, because if we're going to solve, I don't think we can solve it on English, unfortunately, but I think that if with the Me Too movement and the discussions we're going to have about how we can behave and how we can ensure a higher level of equality and how we can ensure that people behave with each other, we also have to find out the underlying reasons why we have come to this situation, I believe. What do you think?
Who are you asking the question?
Cindy, give it as you kicked out in a moment anyway. So
yeah, I think it's still very important that we find ourselves in a safe place, that we have a safe haven, that we are free to express ourselves. Like I mentioned earlier, me myself, a woman CMO, I still need to have that feeling that I can be myself, that I can wear a cleavage like the prime minister, and that I can make jokes without any consequences, because this is me. And that is very important. That's why we need to have that discussion, is that women and men should be able to express themselves within boundaries, of course, but to have a safe place where you and that you're surrounded with people that will look after you as well. That's the whole mentorship thing again. So that's what if there's one last thing that I can say here in this conversation, Morten, it's that you're surrounded with people that help you and give you that safe place where you can be yourself.
Yeah.
And wear a cleavage.
Yeah, that's great. Nidhi, I was just wondering, as I said when I introduced Cindy to the channel here, we spoke to Kyrie. She lives about maybe 1,500, 2,000 kilometers away from Cindy. You live maybe 8,000 kilometers away from Cindy. Yeah, I was just thinking that this thing that we're discussing here is that truly a global issue that is addressed also in India, or is it something that comes from spoiled rich people in Europe and America? That was a joke, sorry. Inappropriate joke, sorry.
See, Morten, everyone knows this is a global phenomenon. It has nothing to do with rich or poor or working, non-working, or so it's a human phenomena, right? So it's global. Everyone knows it, and yeah, the only thing that may make it different is that in India, probably if you consider 2 or 3 decades back, it was not so spoken about, right? I mean, women didn't used to come up and share if they have gone through such a terrible thing in life, but situations have been changing fast, right? In last decade or so, I mean, even in India we have seen a lot of women empowerment and a lot of strong women, women who have been leading in their workplace have come out and spoken about this, and that has definitely given a voice to everyone, and this is more of a now world phenomena. Everyone knows it. So people have become more vocal about it, but yeah, everyone knows it has been there for ages. No one or no geography or no strata of people have been left untouched.
Thank you so far. Cindy, I know that you are busy, so thank you very much for your participation so far. I will also give you a call later just to follow up on a more personal note. I think it's great to talk to both of you and to all of you. So thank you so far, and have a great day ahead of you. And then I will talk to Nidhi in a second again.
Okay, thank you, Morten, indeed, for setting this up. It's a conversation that we need to have, and we start with English. We could take it to Labour parties or whatever, but we start with English TV, and that's good. Okay. You make a first step, you change something. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, and talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Pleasure meeting you, Cindy.
Bye, Nidhi.
Thank you.
And now, Nidhi, now it's just you and me.
Yeah.
Before we continue the conversation, you need to introduce yourself a little bit. So can you tell the viewers who you are?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Nidhi Agrawal, and CEO of Design and Buy, renowned web to print solution provider from India. So we started this company a decade back, probably with this idea came when me, my husband, and one of our friend who is the partner in the company, we were discussing on it, and printing was always something I was interested in, and this idea came up, and they chose me to take up the position of CEO. I don't think there could be a more honest discussion on that, because I think what they felt at that time was I have earned enough credibility working with them to justify this position. So yeah, in that sense, I feel I have always been blessed. First, to be born in a family where my father always inculcated that feeling that, okay, you just go and earn it. It doesn't matter whether you are a man, woman, or whatever. I mean, you have the right skill set, and if you can prove it that you earn it, just go ahead. And then the same is the feeling when I started working with my husband, left my job, and I think I just love this challenge given to me 10 years back, and I hope I've been able to do my job so far. So that's me.
That's great to hear, and I have had the pleasure to talk to you during some more technical and market views. And when I invited you to participate in this conversation, first of all, I consider you a very strong woman, which is always a pleasure to talk to strong women. But I also called you because I am white, I am male, I have prejudice. And I would like to talk to you about a little prejudice before we talk about the subject. I was under the impression that a lot of Indian women were suppressed, but you say that is not the case.
Oh yes, I mean that was ages before Morton. I mean, now Indian women are as strong as any other in any other part of the world. Why? Because we are skillful. The situations here are changing. The society is changing. The mindset is changing, and you will see a lot of Indian women holding top positions in multinationals. Given that. I believe that's because of the years of you say suppression that was projected the Indian women to go through. Yeah, that's true in part, but I guess it has been changing over the time, right? Women has always come to forefront and fought for themselves, and the good thing is that that we are getting equal support. I mean, as I shared, I mean, when we were discussing about design and buy, and it was me, Abhishek, and Rakesh. Those two were running this company almost 5 years, for already 5 years. But when they chose me to take up the position of CEO, it displayed that and I'm considered equal, if not otherwise, right? So that happened a decade back. So you can understand how the situations have changed. And as a woman in the top management, I have always tried to build the same kind of culture and workplace in our company. When I came on board, I made sure that we have a sexual harassment policy in our books. Whenever a male or female employee enters the organization, our HR makes a point to explain this along with all other policies. So that's a integral part of our policies. And when I do, I'm a very candid person. I love interacting with people. So
I know.
probably I know everyone on the floor. So when I go out, I make sure that I give them a feeling that they can come to me and talk about anything if that's bothering to them without any inhibitions, without fearing any you would say fearing any judgment or retaliation, right? So we have made it a point. We also have a concept of a my letterbox, so that someone anonymously can put a letter in that box. So sometimes some people are not so open, I know. I mean, and everyone is not same.
Yeah.
So we made it a point that people should be able to work in a safe space so that they can talk candidly about what they are feeling or going through without fear of judgment or retaliation. So,
One of the things that I asked as the agenda for today is in the first session we did with Kyrit and Cindy, we spoke about the innocent flirt, the flirt that is okay because that fuels the energy between men and women, right? Or between people. Sometimes this flirt can cross a border where it becomes inappropriate, where it becomes non-productive, where it can become a harassment, things like that. Is there a clear border?
I guess the degree of or the line between the innocent flirt and the intentional flirt is, it depends upon sometimes individuals, right?
Yeah, always,
how
I
much
think, yeah.
how much appetite you have to be open with each other. I don't think it's always intentional flirt. I mean, people who are friendly, people who know each other, who trust each other, they get friendly in terms of sharing jokes or I mean making fun about it, right? But you may not share the same warmth with someone else,
Yeah.
and there that line thickens, right? So I think,
So sorry to interrupt you, but that leads to maybe one of the really big issues in the Me Too movement is that when if you say that the lines that can be crossed are different from person to person, how should we teach our kids? I mean, because that is not like, you if you have a speed limit, you can't pass it because you can see on your PDO that you cannot pass that speed limit. That is easy, right? But when it comes to interaction with people, how do we manage this situation?
see, I think everyone knows the difference between a good touch or a bad touch, or a good look or a bad look, right? I mean, it's no brainer. It's no rocket science, and I think that's where we start teaching our children. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I know I've taught her how to differentiate between a good touch and a bad touch. And I think now schools are doing a great job making it part of their curriculum. So I guess especially women, I mean, they can sense, right? we are in and out in company of men, men in the family, men in the friend circle, in society, in workplaces, and we know whom to trust and whom not to. We know what's a good conversation and what's a bad one, what's a good flirt or a bad flirt. So I guess as parents, our responsibility is just to inculcate that feeling that they can voice that opinion when they think that's not something right or that's not something they want to go through. Now, the degree of understanding it may be different. It grows over the time or it grows over the experience. But you have to give them a confidence that you have someone to speak to. This is not something you should keep with you.
So you
Yeah.
you agree, because I think that one of the takeaways from Cindy's participation was that the mentorship and how to support people or women that are, and the young men as well, that are in that is where we can help. Everybody can help, is basically identifying when there is a problem, especially women to women, of course, that can support. So that is a mentor role, and that is. It also sounds a little bit like that in Design and Buy from your company. You are good at pointing out these issues. But when we look at the Me Too movement, right? That, as I also said in the conversation with Cindy, is that one thing is that when we are in the private sphere, then it's maybe easier to do because we know each other, we know the jokes, we know that if you put your hands on my shoulder, that is not sexually, it was just a friendly kind of thing, right? And I was just wondering if because when you look at the Me Too movement and you look at some of the things that we're discussing here, this is on society level. Because even though we have the right things and even though we do the things as we just spoke about, it's still stealing front pages of newspapers and tabloids and magazines and televisions, that anywhere in the world women are harassed and not respected. So, but everybody is part of a private sphere, I think, right? Yeah, I'm just an open question, honestly, because I'm thinking that if everybody belongs to personal groups where it's where we talk about this and we acknowledge that it's not okay to harass people, apparently some men still crosses that line as long as it's not within their private sphere.
I don't believe everyone goes through it. Like I've been lucky enough not to have any such experience. In fact, me or anyone involved in the company. But I would say that the people who take advantage of that private space, it's because they're given that space, right? So if you talk about me, I will never be in a private space with a person I suspect is not respective of my position and my personal preferences, right? So I think that totally depends upon, again, your individual personality and how you make people think about you when they're around you, right? So I think if women come empowered and the skillful personality, it will make it difficult for those perpetrators to continue such behavior in shadows, right? Or in private, because they know that the opinion will be voiced, it will come out, and that definitely would shy them away. So I think a lot depends upon how you deal with it, what kind of persona you have created for yourself, for the people around you, and
But Nidhi, isn't that what you're saying here? Isn't that part of the problem? Because if I listen to what you say and I try to interpret, then I hear that, okay, the women, they cannot be in social groups where they believe that they are not with people they can trust. But the problem is, I think that you should be able to be in everywhere, because as soon as a person violates your privacy or your boundaries or the jokes or the thing, isn't that the problem with that? That if we just put back on the women to say that, okay, just stay in the groups where you know people and you are in a comfort zone, then we have not solved the problem, because we have just put it back on the women. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I think you are seeing it from the other side. So I was bringing one side of it, but yes, you greatly remarked the other point of it. See, what I was trying to say is that you can't eliminate people, right? You can zone out. So if I go to a, let's say, office party or a society gathering, right? I can't zone out people that I'll be try to be in this company and not be in this company. But you can certainly avoid those people coming to you and taking advances because they know it won't work, or they know that this won't be tolerated. You have to have how do I put it? You have to have a group of people. Let's say if you're in our office, some colleagues or seniors you can confide in, and you know that who will be voicing this to the top management if that is even heard of or faced by anyone. And
But
if people know that thing is not going to be tolerated by anyone in this company, I think we can limit the incidences of happening of such incidences,
but
right?
I agree. But what I think, and that is why I'm asking, is because if you look at, for example, I can't remember his name. Is it Bernd Weinstein or whatever his name is in America? That famous producer, right? He has apparently, I can't remember if he's been judged yet or sentenced yet, but he has apparently violated a lot of women sexually because, and maybe they kind of didn't say anything in that specific time because there was a superior relationship. If you want to have this role in this film, you need to sleep with the director, right? If you want to have this position, you need to sleep with the director, right? Or you have to accept harassments in order to get positions. And I think that if you look at Me Too from a more top perspective, I think that the problem is that some men apparently abuse women's position and sexuality and personality and in relation to get a job or position or maybe afraid to say something because they can be fired for this. Do you recognize that that is a totally different problem? Because what you talk about is that you can socialize with and group with the people that you want to socialize with. But if you are in a work relationship where you're depending on a man that wants to abuse you, then you may be very, very vulnerable to that situation, right?
I think this is a topic where I lose words because I know there are a lot of women out there who have gone through this, and it's very difficult to put you in their shoes and feel what made them back off and don't raise a voice. It's very difficult, and I'm very empathetic to such women because I know there must be something that's holding them back, and that should have never happened. And I'm very sorry for those people who go through it, because whatever the situation be, whatever the position be, right, this should not be happening.
No, I totally agree with you. I'm just trying to see that one thing is when you have the social groups where you choose your groups, and then you are situations where you don't have the choice of. Of course, you have the choice always to say no, but if it's not respected, your no, then what? Let's we are going to invite Jean to the call, so I will see if I can get her on board. Maybe she has an opinion about this. I am actually quite sure she has. So hang on a second here. I am just trying to figure out how to do this. I'm getting better at it. You must admit that, because
yes,
now
it's flawless.
Let's see if I can find her here. Jean. And we are now adding Jean to the call. So Jean, let me know when you're there.
She's there.
There she
Hello.
is. Hello, Jean. How are you today?
You.
South Africa. That's far away.
I'm in Cape Town right now. Summer's here. It's wonderful.
Do you know each other?
Hello, Jean.
Ah, there.
That's great. Have you followed our conversations a little bit?
I
or-
have.
Mhm.
And you've had a lot of, I've got to say, strong, very influential woman on there. So yeah, excellent.
I thought you were about to say that you're so biased, you're so man chauvinistic, and you are so old-fashioned that. But that was not the point, or at least not in the public conversation. Or what do you think, Jean?
Well, I guess you never know what you're kind of in for. I've got to say, a lot of people said to me, "Are you sure you want to do this?" So you know, what are you going to say? And you know, and I think so. There's a lot of nervousness around on what this is all about, and so it's been interesting following it. And I think I think everybody's had valid points, and it's been, I'd say, educational for many viewers, I'm sure.
As you may have heard, there was a user writing in about that it should be a woman that was moderating. It hurts my feelings a little bit because I I feel that I am. I can tell you one thing that I want to share with you guys, and that is when I decided to do this one, I started to look through my backlog of relationship with women during the past, not like girlfriends and wives and things like that, but thinking, have I ever done anything that could be a Me Too in the future? and I think that the craziness about this is that sometimes you may not even remember things because you haven't, and that was why I was also asking Unity whether alcohol plays a role in these things, because I think there's a huge difference between the public sphere and the private sphere, right? And I think that the Me Too movement is also very much about situations where you have to differentiate it a little bit at least, right? Not that it's not okay, that it's okay to be violated in the private sphere. That's what I'm saying. But the Me Too movement is distant from the private sphere to some extent. Or what do you think, Jean?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, honestly, when I've been following the Me Too movement when it first came out, and I think, honestly, if I had to think about every inappropriate comment made to me or any inappropriate situation, I would be living in HR's office or I'd be living in a courtroom 24/7. And it's not. It's true, and I've been in this industry since '99, and before that I was in the building industry. So I come from a very, very male-dominated both industries, and I've worked and lived in countries where very different cultures, very different views on this, and you know, and in a lot of these countries, it's you wouldn't even dare think about going to HR with some of these because your career would be over, and that's the harsh reality. And you know, look at the woman that's been on this, and they're very strong personalities, and I think everybody that's been on it would be able to handle themselves very appropriately if they were approached or if somebody made an inappropriate comment or gesture or something. But I also think people take it over the top, and there's, as I say, you know, look at a lot of comments, a lot of things that have been happening. I mean, you know, if somebody's not allowed to tell you that they look nice, well, you know what, when it gets to my age, any compliment I get is great. You know, I'm not 25 anymore. So if anyone tells me I look great, then you know what, I want to take that compliment because it's wonderful. But, you know, to some people just take things very personally and it's inappropriate. And it's part of our nature. And I also think we're in an industry where it's a culture as well. And, you know, if I go back, let's call it 15 years ago, very, very different to what it is now. And
but
I think
Jean,
people are, yeah.
But Jean, because it has or has been a culture, that doesn't mean that sometimes you shouldn't change it if
100%.
because the times are changing, and you know, indeed, when I was asking you about specifically in India because of my prejudice for women in India, I was thinking when Jean says that she worked and lived in an industry where she was given compliments that could be crossing some lines. Have you experienced the same, or you are as a woman in India in a safe zone, or when you are, or how do you see that?
See, definitely different cultures have different, like if you consider India, we say namaste, right? You shake hands, but you do, it's generally not considered friendly to get into a friendly hug. But yeah, when I've been working with people I are all around the world, and I know accepting different cultures and the degree of you say what I call it, um, uh, greeting each other or knowing each other or being friendly with each other may be different. So like maybe a friendly hug is not a big deal in your country or where the gene is, but in India it may be considered a big deal, right?
Mm.
So I mean that's what makes it different. So you have to be adaptive to where you are and where you work, and in among what people you are at the moment. So
Absolutely.
yes, that definitely makes the difference.
And that was why I was asking about the cultural differences, because I can tell you when I travel in India, it's in Denmark we hug maybe too many, but basically we hug men, we hug women among each other, right? So when I go to India, I hug my male friends, but I don't dare to do it with my female friends. And I thought it's kind of crazy because I mean, if it's only a hug and there's no sexual, there's no nothing in it, right? Of course I have to respect your culture, and that is kind of thing that you maybe find crossing a border, whatever, right? But again, that is a culture, and that was what I was also asking Cindy about. When you have multiple cultural, multicultural. Jean, you live in a country with many different cultures.
Sure.
Yeah, and in Ahmedabad, maybe not so many different cultures, but in India there's so many different cultures and so many habits. And when we start traveling the world, we start working in different parts of the world. Jean, you are both in the Middle East and in the UK. I think even for those three countries are very different cultures, right?
Totally,
Yeah,
totally different.
yeah.
And it's always been a big joke because when I had a European job, I know when I was in Belgium, when I lived in Belgium, if they used to hug and kiss 3 times. So it was,
Minimum,
1, 2, 3.
minimum.
And and then in the UK, I know, you kind of give a hug. In South Africa, we just give you a big smooch on the cheek and, on the lips. It's just, so I've always used that as, the Belgians would grab me and give me 3 kisses, and I'd say, well, now I've got to show you South African style. And I would grab them and give them a big kiss. And could I be up for sexual harassment because of that? Could that be considered crossing the line? And I think, and I think maybe because I'm a woman, I get away with a lot. And in that way, but that's also my personality. And I think one of the other speakers, I think it was Cindy, also said it's what makes you you. And I'm pretty flirty, but I know the line. And I'm very careful about not crossing that line. But I joke, and as you know, Morten, I play golf, and sometimes there's 200 men on the golf course, and I'm the only woman. And yes, I'm going to have comments, and I'm going to have things thrown at me, but that goes with the turf almost. And maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but you kind of accept it.
I'm not. I think it's important that this session is not about judging or anything like that. I think that what I think is the major important thing of this takeaways from these sessions are the differences from culture to culture.
Absolutely.
And I think that what Cindy came up with about having the mentorship and the role of that is very, very important, because you are both strong women. You can probably throw a fist if you need to, right? but you can probably also just say no, and people will respect it. I think that the problem with this is not the people that can say no. The problem is the ones that can't say no. Right?
Correct. Yes. Correct. And I got to say, we spoke about mentorship, and one of in my career, I was fortunate enough to actually be mentored by senior execs, men. And, we speak about mentorship and finding a woman you can speak to, but I also find it absolutely beneficial to have a male mentor, because you are in a male industry and because you possibly traveling to different geographies. And if you could find a male mentor because he's also going to get educated at the same time as you. And I think that works both ways. So I know some of the mentors that I've had have been male, and you get to know them, and they also get to hear about the struggles you have as a person, and they get to see these things. So I think if we could put, people together on mentorship programs, fantastic, but not just women. I mean, you sitting there doing this interview today, I think it's awesome. I think it's fantastic because, if it was a female, maybe it would be a different dynamic, because then it's like, as this woman movement and we all trying to, and I think that's what a lot of people see this as, or saw this as, should I say. But the fact that we got a male running it, and Morten, everybody knows you, everybody loves you, and it's great. I think, it just shows another side to it.
And I think that also another takeaway from Cindy's talk with her was great, because she also said that it started maybe mostly as something that was relating to women, but today I think it's about respecting other people regardless of sexuality, regardless of gender, regardless of culture, regardless of everything. So I think the big takeaway for the Me Too movement is maybe the respect among humans, right? Because I think that if you cross the line that you mentioned before, Jean, maybe it's because you don't respect you. And then it becomes very difficult also to find out how to get on with things, because if you don't respect each other, how should you then work as well?
Morten, I think a good point, because in your conversation before I joined, I see a lot of it as bully behavior. And there are a lot of bullies. And funny enough, the reason I wanted to try and call you last week was exactly about that topic, because I know so many people that are exposed to bullies, and you could look at it as, there's a fine line between, that's harassment and that is this, but there is such bullish behavior. And a lot of women, and not just women, actually men, get picked on by bullies. And bullies normally have the boys' club behind them or something. And it's, a lot of this also falls into that bullish behavior.
That is great, and I want to talk to you about that, but I want to say thank you very much to Nidhi now, because your time is over. I will get back.
Good to meet you.
I will get back to you after the sessions, just because I want to follow up on this thing here. So thank you very much, Nidhi. I hope you enjoyed being part of it. I enjoyed having you on board. So it was great to have the Indian perspective as well. Now you represent 1 billion people, right? That must be fantastic.
Certainly, thank you, Martin. I enjoyed discussing this topic and being on board with a lot of other strong women discussing it with me. And I hope a lot of good points came out of it that are even takeaways for me. So again, thank you. And thank you, Jean. Pleasure
Nice to
know you.
Okay.
Goodbye. Enjoy
Goodbye.
this.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. So, Jean, you're mine now, right?
Just yours. Love it.
So, Jean, I think that you had a very excellent point there, because I have never thought about that maybe this is the boys' club, maybe this is the bullying, maybe it's... I can't help thinking about when I see... do you see any cartoons, the Disney cartoons like Phineas and Ferb?
I know which ones you're talking about, yeah.
I love them because they're so funny, because one of the guys in that group of Phineas and Ferb is a bully. But he always ends up being a nice guy, because there's no other ones that are bullying. And I think that if you are in among other people that are bullying, then it is a self... amplifying situation to be in, if nobody says stop. And maybe the Me Too thing is a stop button. Maybe it's that's a good way to think of it, is to say that, okay, we need to make sure that the minority that is maybe not behaving nicely will start behaving nicely. Or how do you think of that?
I think there's no doubt it's changing. There's no doubt that people are aware, and we can't make comments. As you know, I've been running sales teams, even service teams together. So I've been maybe on the other side of the fence. I haven't been, call it just a supplier or offering a service to the industry. I've been managing sales teams and all over the world. And You spoke about alcohol earlier, and alcohol changes the conversation. You better believe it does. And we can sit and go, these things aren't appropriate and these things can't be said. It's still going to happen behind our backs, if we like it or not. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And I think we're naive to think that it doesn't. But there definitely is a change in the way we act to women because of. And if we're going to be running and reporting every little comment or every little inappropriate thing to HR, you're never going to get a job anywhere. No one's going to hire you because you're going to change the dynamic of joining a team where people are used to joking and being playful and, oops, now we can't. And so it is going to impact and affect all kinds of different things.
Will that eventually cause frustrations? Because I was thinking if I was a young woman just graduating and I wanted a job, and I see the social media, I see the television and all the Me Too movements and all the people that are exposed to this one, do you think that will cause problems for young women to actually, because I mean, you have to stand up when you are in situations that are inappropriate, right?
You do. And there's no way I'm going to say to anybody, yes, you know what, just suck it up, take it. No, abuse is abuse. But I also think you kind of, excuse the pun, but you got to put your big old panties on and be tough, because you need to fight back, and you got to let them know that this is not appropriate and this is, you're overstepping the line. But you also can't, you coming into what is known as a male-dominated industry, which doesn't give any male justification to bully you or to harass you, but you are part of the change that is happening and going to happen. So you kind of need to come into it and you've got to toughen up. Yeah. And I've mentored quite a few women, and you cannot cry every time somebody makes a little comment or something. You've got to toughen up and almost fight back. And you probably find when you do, those people that are bullying will actually just quickly go back into their hole and keep quiet. It's just they've been able to get away with it.
But you touch on the thing I also spoke to Lydia about, is that for strong women that is maybe not so difficult, right? It's for the women one thing is that you may not be a strong woman. That is unfortunate. But what I was thinking may be more important to this discussion is that sometimes you are maybe depending on a job by, the bully is giving you the job or not giving you the job, right? And I think that this is where it becomes really inappropriate, is when you are in situations where your position in a workplace, it could be in the graphical industry, it could be in every industry, but where your job depends on accepting being bullied, for example, right?
And it's sad, because you probably find the bullies and the ones that are going to pick on you will pick on the vulnerable ones that know, they need their job, and they're brilliant at targeting. And those are the ones that are the fearful ones that you got to be afraid of, because yes, you are going to feel threatened. And then you need to try and find appropriate action that you can take. And not everybody is going to rush off to HR, because, once you open that can of worms, and then there's no turning back, and people are aware of that. So how do they cope? How do they handle it? And I think, as you say, mentorship programs, those kind of things, speaking about it, people, educating the younger ones that are coming into this industry on how do you actually cope with things like this. Where you kind of don't sit there every day dreading Monday morning because you've got to go back to work and you're going to get this abuse. So it's good to educate women on how to stand up for yourself and how to toughen up in these situations.
I actually came to mind. I worked in a printing company as a salesperson 25 years ago, something like that, and I was starting working. It was a guy that was the manager there, and then there was a party, and that was like 2-3 days after I started. So I didn't want to party, didn't want to join because I didn't know anybody, and I did have the other plans. And when that was like Friday evening. When I got to work on Monday, the mood of the industry, of the company, was really, really strange, and I was just like, what's going on here? And apparently, the manager, he has inappropriately touched not only all the women, but also all the men.
Oh my word.
Yeah. And that was, I
Yeah.
think that was the first time I experienced that in that scale, inappropriate handling or behavior. And he got sacked, and essentially was a kind of a cleanup procedure for the entire company afterwards. I think it was about 20 people that he violated.
Wow.
Of
And he
all
got away
ages.
with it. You see, and I think that shows you those 20 people were probably vulnerable people that he picked on. Because somebody's strong personality, I mean, that just wouldn't have happened. They find their victims. And that's the sad part.
So the topic of this hour, so to speak, is when flirting becomes when you cross the borders, across the lines for flirting. And I think that Nidhi is right, because she said this is very individual. There's no it's not a definition of when you cross a border. But what if with your experience, where is there is there any clear indications? If let's say that you're not a strong woman that can say no, but you don't want to. How can you? What signs should you as the opponent look for? Because I think there's a clear challenge in this one, because if you don't see the signs, I'm not saying that it's an excuse, but I'm just saying that if you don't see the signs as the male, for example, it can be very difficult to read people, especially if you've been drinking and things like that. So I was just wondering, is there anything that the young guys and the old guys and the and the types like me should look out for?
Honestly, if I think about situations and that I've seen and maybe myself being exposed to, 9 out of 10 times alcohol has been involved, sadly. And I think, we travel, we go to exhibitions, we go on business trips, all those things. And a couple of drinks later and things do get out of hand. And I think, somebody mentioned earlier, it's time to kind of leave the party, and it's, understand that, this person is crossing the line. And I think, for me, the way I would handle it is obviously try and get myself out of that situation as quick as possible. And the next day, whatever the situation is to actually call that person aside and say, behavior was totally inappropriate. But if you're a young, innocent person, that is a very challenging conversation, because this person is just going to deny. And I think, you can send a message and make it very loud and clear. Please do not send me inappropriate messages, or please do not do that again. And you've got it in writing. I know it sounds terrible, but you've got something, because you better believe whoever this is got himself covered, and it's not you probably aren't the first victim. And it's just going to be, and if he's in a more senior position, it's just a matter of denying. And then it's like, what, this woman, she's accusing me, she's a bit delusional. And it's a scary position to be in. And I think that's where, there's the Girls Who Print group that are out now, and there's a lot of strong women that can give you solid, good advice. And I think just get somebody on your side that you can at least talk to, and every situation's different. I mean, somebody spoke earlier about black, white. There's a lot of gray in between. You might have been drinking too, and you've got to be very careful if you're accusing him, and you might have been flirting, and there's 10 people that also saw you flirting. But that doesn't mean he's allowed to come and knock on your hotel door. No. So, I think that's the scary bit. There's a gray in between.
What about the other way around? Because we talk about women finding mentors to support their situation. What about the male or the man that is potentially violating or harassing a woman, let's say at a party, at a trade show, or in the bar or whatever? What about his colleagues and his buddies? Shouldn't they stand up standing up saying, hey guy, you are about to cross some borders that you don't want to cross?
100%. But again, as I say, he's probably in many cases in a position of authority. I think if it's one of the sales guys and he's got a bunch of colleagues, I've seen it a lot where guys will pull him aside and say, hey, back off, stop that. And I think it's sessions like this that expose and talk about that, and make people aware. And I think it's up to every single one of us that are in positions of not just power, but if you see one of your colleagues who's a rep and he's behaving inappropriately and pushing himself onto a woman, it's up to each one of us to step in and say, hey, back off. You know, you can see when somebody's vulnerable. You can see they're not going to punch somebody in the face like probably I would. You know, it's up to all of us to, and we, you know, a lot of it gets seen and people don't want to get involved, or, you know, people just whisper, stop it. But you can, and I've seen it so many times. There's so many people that can say, back off, don't do that. You know, what you did last night was inappropriate. You're lucky because you could, you know, you could get taken to HR. So I think it's up to all of us to actually stand up for, we all know who they are. We all know who they are. So it's stand up for the victims.
Yeah. It's I won't say it's funny because it's not a funny subject to talk about, but when you say that we all know who they are, I'm just wondering if maybe I'm just blind because I don't really see something. Often I don't see things before they have happened, but I often hear afterwards that the journey they went on. and I'm just saying that because I'm you know, one of the reasons why I feel that this I hope this session will be seen by people. I hope this session is educating and you know, giving inspiration to people, because I think that sometimes some people are maybe blind. Maybe I'm stupid. I'm too involved in discussions about the graphical industry and inkjet devices and consumables and economy that I don't see anything around me. Or don't get me wrong, but I'm just thinking that we should maybe also as co-workers take the responsibility of take a look at the people you're working with in situations. I think that some of the Me Too things that are taking place here in Denmark right now is actually, all of them also involves alcohol, and all of them always, or almost always, also takes place at conventions or
absolutely
far away from your wife, or and you know, because that is another thing also, that is sometimes that, you know, for the males that are violating or harassing or crossing borders, they are also cheating on their wives often, right?
Correct. That's a whole nother topic, I think, for maybe a whole nother day. But you know, when I say we know who they are, I mean, I think there's enough people in the industry that kind of know the people that do pick on the vulnerable and that are the bullies, and that always start the conversation about, oh, did you see what that one was wearing today? And I'm not talking about, oh, her dress was pretty. It happens, you know, a couple of years later, and you're all at the sales meeting, and a couple of years later at the bar, and the conversation always tends to turn off onto, oh, did you see the one that joined, and did you see this? And, you know, it almost needs to be stopped then and then, because it's going to get ugly. And I think as the most senior person or the most responsible person in that group, and I've been part of those meetings, and honestly, are going back to quite a few years ago. If it had to happen now, I think you grow up and your mindset's different, and you realize that, you know, then it was just acceptable. It was one of those things. You're in a male's world, you're in a male industry, you know, you accept, it almost becomes acceptable. And I think Me Too does open one's eyes to say, you know what, it's not, and not everybody can handle these things. I mean, I laugh about it and I go, yeah, you know, if anyone had to try that with me, but what about those poor vulnerable ones? So yeah, we've got to, as I say, I think a lot of us see it, and for years and years, it was one of those things that this is what happens in the industry, but it's changed.
Can I ask you an inappropriate question? You will probably like it anyway, or answer it anyway. The reason why I'm asking you, if I can ask you, is because do women also take advantage of this?
So that's an interesting one. I got to say, I think a woman has got a lot of power, and if you don't learn how to use your power, then, you know, a lot of women know how to use their power and get what they want out of it. But like everything, there's a line. And I think a lot of women do have that power, and some of them maybe overstep it. to a point, and that's why I think there's the grey area. Where does it stop? I mean, I know my power. I know where to use it. I know how to get certain things, but I don't think I abuse it in any shape or form. I don't take it to the next step of, or, offer myself if you're going to give me this, or, buy from me, or whatever the case may be. But, I think women do have power. And like the other way around with the men, there's a line, and you need to be very careful with that, because I can tell you, I'm very open and I'm very friendly, and maybe sometimes too much so, because people will take full advantage of that afterwards, and I'll go, hang on, did you misread? Oh, sorry, I just thought because you're so friendly and so nice. And and again, it's different cultures, it's different places, and I am friendly, and I am, but maybe, maybe I did overstep, because they've misread it and they think, oh my gosh, because she's so nice to me, she wants to come back to my hotel room. And it's, so yes, I think we've got to be very sensitive to that and very careful. And yes, do women abuse it? I think probably that some of them that I know probably overstep it, but I think a lot of them also realize, the more mature ones as such, there's consequences to actions, and you've got to be aware of that. And I think a lot of the young girls will learn that as they're going along. Your behavior, yes, be careful.
Let's add Maya Stiles to the conversation. You know Maya?
I don't. I actually didn't know anyone on the group, so I looked them all up, and, interesting people.
That was why I sent you the... Hello, Maya.
Yes.
Hello.
Let's see if we can get...
Hi, Maya.
Hi, Jean.
Have you turned on your camera, Maya?
Let me double check. I thought I did.
There you are. There you are.
Here I am.
Gotcha.
So now we are...
Hi, Jean.
Hi there.
Hi, Maya. I'm here too.
Hi, Morten. Thank you for being the host.
We are back in Europe. We are in... are you living in Brussels, or where do you live actually?
I live near Brussels, in between Ghent and Brussels, so very central. So easy access to pretty much every place in the world.
And you are here representing, because you have a communications company called Real, and you work for multiple partners in the graphical communications industry. And I really appreciate that you are on board, in particular because you convinced Cindy to go along, right?
Yeah, I told her, us girls, we have to stick together, and if there is any way that we can help contribute to this message, I think we owe it to everybody within this industry. And I've been nodding my head constantly throughout these sessions, saying yes, yes, so true, so true. So I think you're raising a few very important topics here, Morten, and thank you for that, honestly, because it is hard. It's still hard after all these years. But hearing all these empowering stories, I think it's nothing but a wonderful contribution.
Thank you very much for that. Did you also listen to my friend Jean from South Africa? Because I can tell you that she said to me before she accepted my invite, she said, "Are you sure you want me on board? And maybe some men will shake in their pants because I'm participating." So what do you...
Because I got a few messages to say, what are you going to say? What is this about? So,
Maya, do you think that women sometimes take advantage of their gender in order to bring themselves in other business positions than they would have done otherwise?
I think that's there might be women who do that. I'm sure. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure there are women who feel comfortable using their sexuality to close a deal, or that's their personal decision. What I feel that women often contribute to a lot of conversations is that they can sense the atmosphere. There are a lot of sensitivities that women easier pick up on than men. So in that perspective, I would say yes, if you'd be an idiot not to use your softer skill to pick up on the sensitivities in conversations and see if you can that way ease up the conversation, close the deal, yes. But in terms of sexuality, no.
No. But the reason why I'm asking is because I think that at least some of the takeaways I have got from the conversation so far with all these strong women attending today is the ever recurring question is that what makes this conversation take place? Because I think that what we have concluded is that maybe Jean, you have another perspective, but what Nidhi said, she was very much on that this when you are in the social sphere, then you can easily pick who you want to associate with and who you don't want to associate with, and that I think is also when it's work related. And then there's the elevation on society level, where we talk about the movie stars and famous people and how men apparently abuses their positions to get access to what people wouldn't necessarily accept to do, right? And I think that discussion is maybe very interesting also because we have been talking about the innocent flirt. We have been talking about when the flirt is not okay, but we also have to start thinking about, okay, how can we move on? And as you said, Jean, maybe this is a pattern. Maybe we can always identify the man in the boys' club that is always the one that is violating, is always crossing lines, is always doing the things that all of us believe is wrong. So how? I mean, the easy way to move on is just to out, right?
He's probably going to be one of your top performers because he's got the gift of the gab or something, or he's going to be an asset to the business or the company. So I think it's easy to say that, but when it comes to company business, it's how do you manage that? But I think, as I said, with your co-workers, your colleagues, your management, people can see, people know, and I think, with Me Too movements and just making people aware, it's up to, as I say, each one of us to step in and go, guys, that might have been acceptable previously, but no more. You just can't do that anymore. And I think people have got to realize they are now starting to put their careers and lives at risk, and they're affecting other people's lives too, because that poor victim has to go to HR, and guess what? Her life is not going to be the same after that. She's going to be the one, and she's going to, they're affecting people's income and lives. And I think, it's up to us to just stand up and say, enough, it's got to change. And I'm not saying, again, there's a line, and the light-hearted and the innocent stuff. I mean, that to me goes with the job. It's one of those things, but it's the more serious stuff that we've got to step up and know more.
Because I agree, and one of the reasons why I'm asking these questions is also because, again, when I spoke to my wife about this subject a couple of days ago, you have met her, Nina, Maya. Basically, we spoke about who is the one that is going to be laid off in case you're violating an employee, right? Because if it's a superior position you are in, of course you should still have the kick in the butt if you're doing something that is not wrong. But maybe HR, maybe top management, maybe some people will think, but this person is so important to the company, and if we can pay some money to the woman that feels violated, and just slowly get her out of the back door in case that is a situation. I don't think that is a scenario that is not happening anywhere. Or what do you think, Maya?
No, unfortunately, it's still very much a reality. I heard it happen to a connection actually about a year or 2 years ago. Important guy in sales, bringing in the big bucks.
And
she was sidetracked, and a year later she was out. Yeah, he kept the job, and she was out.
And that when those stories are brought to the table, I think it becomes even more difficult for women that feel violated to actually go to HR. Right?
Probably, but some women don't even have the chance to go to HR because it happens with somebody from outside of the company. And which HR department do you talk to then?
Yeah.
You don't, and then you have to take your own responsibility. And with a bit of luck, you get supported by other people, and I thought it was a very narrative that you had going on earlier. What if you can't say no? What if you are a vulnerable person? You're just early in your career, and somebody wants to, you know, get a little bit of extra out of the contract, how do you say no? Where do you draw the line? And I think it's very important there, if you have the support of other men in that perspective, it's up to other men to then say, this is not okay. Because when I started out, I had a conflict with an outside party. It had to happen because so many parties were involved. And I told him, you're crossing some major borders here with me. I am not comfortable. Please stop immediately. I even put that in writing because unfortunately, Jean, like you said, it is something that sometimes we have to do. Nothing happened anymore. I lucked out, so to speak, that he left me alone. But a year later, one of my customers wanted to work with him again. And I said, with all due respect, I choose not to work with him anymore. I trusted my contact, I trusted my partner, and I informed him what had happened. And he said, okay, I don't condone that kind of behavior. I will not work with him again. The other party visited his booth a few months after that, and he said, no, you were very disrespectful towards somebody that I want to work with. His boss was there. So I think it must have been a horrible day for him. But I was extremely grateful that my customer, a man, stood up for me saying, no, you disrespected my partner, my trusted colleague, my friend. And actually at that moment, because I was a lot younger and naive, that is the kind of encouragement you need at the moment to say, it's okay to say no.
Wow, what a story. And that brings things closer, right? Because, you know, when one thing is when you talk about things that is the others, right? Now we have your story just in front of us, right? And I think that you're totally right that everybody should stand up for each other in these cases. And it leads to me, again, I can't help thinking about it. It's not because I am disencouraged by it, but the message that we got in the beginning of the show, where apparently a woman asked why it's not moderated by a woman, this conversation. I think that the Me Too and the entire discussion we have today with the flirts and the how to move on things is way beyond a women's issue. This is a human's issue. This is a people perspective where I think that everybody needs to step up and say that, okay, we all, I can tell you a story. And maybe you think I'm stupid saying this. I'll do it anyway. I was in the music industry before I joined the printing industry. And every year there was a music trade show in Frankfurt. And one of the things that is also a very male-dominated culture, I can tell you. And basically, when we went to the show, there was like a few things that you always did. You had to go to a strip club, and you had to go to a whorehouse, basically, right? You didn't have to go and do anything, but you had to go with other men. Otherwise, you were out of the group. At that time, I got my daughter Christine, and she was newborn, and I thought that, this is not what I want to do. I don't judge other people's behavior, things like that, but I decided that I go home. I don't want to do the strip clubbing. I don't want to do the whorehouses. So I went home, and when I started walking, I was the only one of my company that started walking. And I was just like, okay, I'm pretty much alone in this one. And then after like 5 minutes walk, 2 of my colleagues, they ran after me and said, we also decided this is not us. We have been this for 10 years, this is not us. And I'm just saying that I think that for everybody in every situation, and maybe that is where the Me Too movement is very good. We have to make up our minds what we believe is okay and what is not okay. And I don't think that it's always a matter of judging other people, but maybe make a stand on your own. What do you want? What is your life? What do you think?
I've got to say, like I said to you, I've got to be very careful how I answer this one because I've been on all sides of the fence. As you know, I've managed teams, I've been part of teams, I've all kinds of things. And I think in our industry, the strip club mentality and the boys going, and it's part of the job that you get involved in things like that. And it's a kiss and tell, I don't kiss and tell kind of thing, it's you do it. And a lot of them are dragged into it. I don't, and I look at you going, you walked away. I've got to tell you, you one of thousands of men that I've met that actually walk away out of situations like that. It almost goes with the job. It's part of what the boys do. And I think there probably are a lot of vulnerable, and actually I know there are a lot of vulnerable sales guys that have just maybe had kids and, newly married, and they all feel I can't be a wet blanket. I've got to go along with this, and they do it. And that's what they do. And everybody protects everybody, and it's kind of don't kiss and tell, but we can be naive and say, oh, no, that doesn't happen anymore. Believe me, it happens all the time, and it's still happening today. It's just, I think, part of the job. I mean, I think at Hunkler recently, there was a restaurant that topless woman was serving pizzas.
That's okay with me. That's okay with me. Oh, sorry, I couldn't help.
Oh, well, I worked there and I didn't see you there once. I mean, so no. So, there were queues outside to go in there, and there's queues to go to the titty bars because that's what the boys do. And, that's everybody's individual decision. I mean, we're not talking about that because that's not part of the Me Too, or is it? It's not, because everybody's got to decide that's what they're going to do or not do. I think it's when you're forcing your colleagues and your sales team or people that work for you to go into these places that they don't really want to be. I think that's when you've got to be held responsible. And there were probably a lot of people like you, Morten, who just don't have the courage to walk away, because you'll always be the nerd or the one that doesn't fit in, and you're not part of the team because you're a nice, happily married guy. Mm. So your wife's very blessed, by the way. I'm sure she's going to watch this. She's very lucky.
No, she won't. No, but see, I think that the reason why I wanted to share that story with you is, of course, it's not as crossing any borders like your story, Maya. But the reason why I want to talk about this one is because also when we talked to Lydie, again, the culture thing, where does it come from? Is it alcohol? It's how we educate teach our kids the values we have from schools, from our domestic sphere. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, because I think that Me Too is a symptom of misbehavior among people. And where does it come from? One thing is that we might be more sensitive, yes. And maybe it's also because the sensitivity is not bad, because if we don't like it, why should we then attend in anything, right? So, I mean, when I talk about this story, it's just as you said, Jean, if it's a male club or boys club where you have to go to these kind of events to be a real man or whatever, then you are forcing the next generations to follow. And I think that, and that was why I was saying that the Me Too is maybe the stop button. This is where we have the opportunity, male and women, to sit down and say, what do we think is right or wrong from our own perspective? Or Maya?
Yeah, I have to say, I hear the stories. I've heard the stories, but I've never actually been, and I've been in this industry for 15 years as well. The case I'm mentioning happened outside of the industry, just to be clear. Because I have to say, within this industry, nothing ever happened. Okay, a few comments here and there and a bit of flirty behavior, but hey, like Jean said, woman up, it happens.
But was that
on she who is who does not make an inappropriate joke cast the first stone? Cindy, I know you're listening. We joke a lot in the office.
but Maya, is the flirt that you referred to now, was that on the side of the innocent flirt, or did it cross any borders for you?
Oh, for me it was a major border crossed.
Okay,
yeah.
So that was
way
beyond.
It wasn't really innocent. It was innocent conversation at first, but then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be sure
it was dirty talk in the end, and I said, "Dude, that's not okay."
Yeah.
And that's what I was gonna say. Within the industry, after that, the moment that somebody said something that did not feel right, a simple "Dude, that's not okay," is often quite effective to immediately put that to a halt, and then you immediately indicate this is a border. But other than that, I think it has to be a match of personalities and not necessarily genders, because that's how you build confidence and team spirit. And you still have to find a way to keep your own personality without constantly having to wonder about a Me Too sort of Damocles hanging above your head. So you have to keep it safe and pleasant for everybody. But if something does not feel right with you, you always have the liberty of saying, "Oof, I'm uncomfortable with that." And I've seen that a lot with younger women entering this industry. You pick up on sensitivities that lie underneath. And what I did, would often talk to them on the side and ask, "Are you okay? I saw you flinch for a moment there."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a story. It's finding out what the story is and see what you do with the story afterwards. If I felt that a woman felt uncomfortable because the comment of a man, I would talk to the man and say, "There's a different story there. Watch out what you're saying to her." And that's how we help each other out. Sometimes you have to help the women, but you also have to help the men understand and teach them how to do one better within the team.
Yeah.
And you can do that without involving HR, but just a fair and honest one-on-one saying, "I know you mean well, but you hurt her," because of that's helping men as well, I find.
That's great. Jean, you are out of here. Kicked out. No, thank you for your contribution and thank you for your participation. I really enjoyed your views, so thank you very much.
Thank you. And great stuff. I'll enjoy watching the rest of it.
Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Okay, cheers.
Thank you, Jean. Bye.
So, you and me, Maya.
You and me, Morten. It's been since Copenhagen last year.
That was great. And just so everybody understands, there was nothing else than we had a dinner. So in this, in case my wife watches this, the first time I met you, which was not in Copenhagen, that was a couple of years ago. I think I can't remember. Maybe it was Label Expo. I have always considered you a very, very professional person, and it took me a little while before I got to know you. And the reason why I mention this is just because now I think that you are one of my go-to women. I really enjoy talking to you. I think you're very professional in everything you do. So, and it's not just because I want to appreciate who you are. It's because is that something that protects you also from potentially being vulnerable?
I had never looked at it that way, but
so it's a stupid question, or
it's a no, not at all. It's a very insightful question actually, because I'm an introvert at heart.
And you work in
which
communication.
Often clashes with my PR and communication profession. Yes, indeed. But I don't easily let people in, because not just the one incident that happened over 15 years ago, but just because I feel that you have to, you're responsible to create your own safe space actually, and I heard the other stories, and like I said, I've been nodding my head constantly, because you have all these strong women on board here in these talks, but there's also a big majority of women that aren't being heard because they're afraid to say no. And a lot of women, regardless of the industry that they're active in, they suffer from imposter syndrome. Oh, we're never good enough, and I'll never live up to the expectations of my male colleagues. And it's important that companies nowadays foster an environment where women feel safe. And I have to say that that's also why I was so adamant on Cindy joining this call, because, for instance, at Chili Published, it is probably one of the safest places I work at. I feel totally at ease, even to make mildly inappropriate jokes even. It is, you set out the professional atmosphere that you want to work in. And we can joke all we want, quite a lot, but when work is to be done, work gets done. So that's the safe space that you create, really. Yeah.
And so that was maybe not that stupid question anyway, right?
No.
No.
Oh, and thanks again for the compliment. I really appreciate it, because I try to be, you get friendly, you get outgoing, but you're always careful not to come across as too friendly, because you are in PR and communication.
You are way beyond that. You're way too friendly. No, just kidding. Okay, so Maya, we have established the innocent flirt. We have established that sometimes these lines are crossed. I also think that you were very good at also pointing out now that when the lines have been crossed and if we need to, solve things again, then we're in a situation where you need to figure out what to do. And you said that you talk to the person that is violated, typically the women, but you also talk to the guy that you stepped over some borders here, and sometimes it doesn't even get to HR, or maybe doesn't even get to management knowledge. So let's say that we are now in a situation where this incident has happened, and you can't undo it. Then is there something you can do on a personal level? Let's say that you have been violated as a woman. Is there any? And it's not like rape or anything like. It's more like a flirt that you don't accept. It's still in that area, because we're not talking policing or anything like that. I'm still saying that within some limitations, right? Is there anything that you can do yourself? I mean, because you have to live with that, whatever harassment you have been exposed to. So how do you move on these things?
Well, I think it depends on how it affects you as a person. If it's really hurtful to you as a person, you have to find a way to process it and see what it is that you want to learn from this. You have to process it first, obviously, and then see how do I want to handle this in the future, or how can I avoid this from happening again, especially when you tie it in with a professional element. For me, because sometimes men are blunt. They don't realize that they said something that might have been hurtful for the other person. And if you're a person who doesn't dare to say, stop, this is enough, or that really hurt, you have to see everything in the context, and see that you can express yourself towards that person, saying afterwards even, that was not okay. If you continue like this, I don't think that we can continue to work on a professional level. But you determine the degree of inappropriateness. Really, you set the boundaries. It's up to them to see how respectful they will be towards you in a professional setting.
But I was,
and it's
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was more thinking about, let's say that you are the violated woman. You have your lines being crossed, whatever. And you know that situation can't be undone. Can you do anything? I mean, will it help you to openly talk to colleagues about it, and that will leave it into a public space, or is that a kind of an embarrassment? I'm trying to figure out, because as Jean also said, these situations, regardless of Me Too, regardless of how much we talk about this, these situations will always probably, unfortunately, occur, right?
Unfortunately, yes, but you determine where you go to work every day. You quickly get a feel of companies, how they act towards their employees, towards their teams.
That's
the slightest hint of disrespect would be a complete turn off to go work there.
Yeah.
So
that's true. That's true for sure, 100%. But again, if
should it happen, in the event that it happens, regardless of the circumstances, I think you have to check what the cultural atmosphere is within the company on how these types of situations are to be handled. Because if something happened and the person was drunk and he didn't mean to upset or hurt or offend you in any which way. Maybe there's a way of resolving it between the two of you. See if he can make amends, say sorry. That usually helps. That's a great first step, to apologize for something that might have rubbed people the wrong way. And see if you can move on from there. I see no need to immediately expose and police and HR, and a lot of it depends on intent and the context in which the event took place. So I think above all, you first have to be the diplomatic, graceful, unfortunately bigger person, and see how you want to handle this, because also as a woman, the way that you handle this will be perceived as the reality by everybody. If you handle it gracefully, diplomatically, and with respect for the other person, people will also see, okay, it happened, it's too bad, let's move on. But if you handle it with a lot of drama, then that too will also reflect on you poorly, unfortunately.
Yeah. You said something really interesting, and that was the fact that if you sense a wrong atmosphere in a company when you go to work, and that is, I think that is a very important discussion with yourself to have.
Yes.
If you are, let's say that you are managing a company, and that is the situation, and you don't even see it yourself. I mean, as a manager, for example, right? Then of course you have big issues. Is that something that you can? Is that something that we can? Is that something that we can push in the right direction? So the management team and the HR, a little bit depending on the size of the companies, of course. If it's smaller companies, it's typical owners that need to address these issues. And how do we nurture that culture so it becomes a good place? I mean.
Yeah. I think a lot of companies nowadays, because people are so outspoken and especially now with the whole social media, everything gets thrown on Facebook, Twitter, well, at least personal stuff, TikTok, you name it. People tend to be very open. So I think managers have a lot of ways of tuning into how their employees are behaving professionally, but how they also are on a personal level. So not knowing is no longer an excuse, in my opinion, when it comes to management, and especially they have to cultivate that atmosphere themselves. It's up to management to be mindful of, the sensitivities, to constantly instill the company values that need to be adhered to. Anybody violating those company values is somebody who was a wrong match, maybe from the start. So I think it's, and personally, if I were to say something wrong, I appreciate it when management comes to me and says, "Oh, Maya, that was a thin line over there," or you have to watch out. I appreciate that. You need direction to make sure that you're also very much aware of the sensitivities that lie within other groups or other companies. And sometimes it's something that you're not aware of. So it's up to management then to cultivate that atmosphere. And it's the ownership of the situation. That's what they have to live up to, really.
Fantastic. We have I think she's a relatively young woman, Doreen. We want to add her to the conversation, if you don't mind.
Nope.
Do you know Doreen?
No. Never met her before. We connected on LinkedIn.
Okay. She's also from your part of the world. So that's
from amazing. The Netherlands, I saw.
Yeah. That's almost. So let's see here. If I can figure out how to do that. So let's see if Doreen is joining us. I think she is. Hello, Doreen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh yes, so
Hi,
good
Doreen.
to see you. So good to see you.
Perfect. Good to see you too.
Thank you very much.
We only met.
Sorry.
We only met online
before.
We never met in real life.
No, that is true, and I appreciate that you took the invitation, because I did it in a late moment. First of all, I got this idea for this event too late. Everything I do is too late, but I wanted to have this discussion as it's Girls Who Print Day today, and I think it's important to have this discussion. Have you followed the conversation a little bit, Doreen?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think of it so far?
It's very interesting to hear all the opinions of the other women, and also the stories of women who actually went through sexual harassment or at work. Like, I've never experienced it myself. Like the extremely things, the very extreme things. But yeah, I'm scared. Not really scary, but it happens.
Yeah, and that is the reason why I thought this conversation is important. As you may have heard in the beginning, I said that it's been quite difficult to get people on board this conversation, mainly because there was like some thought that it was more like a trade union federation kind of discussion, not from a media, and some others were thinking that this is exaggerated, this is not an interesting debate to participate in for many different reasons. But I think that my takeaway now from sitting here almost 3.5 hours is, or 2.5 hours or 3 hours, sorry, is I think the conversation's been great, and I think that from my perspective it's been good, because for me it's been elevated that this is not just a female women thing. This is also something that really relates to men, both the men that are of course not violating anything themselves, but also how to speak up and say stop to your bodies who do things you don't like, right? The subject of this hour, I just need to take another headset because I'm running out of batteries. Sorry. That was no computers. Well, so unorganized. I'm sorry. The subject is what happens. What can we do to move on when things? And Jareen, I'm happy that you have not been violated yourself, because then we take the discussion not from a personal perspective, but more from a generic perspective. That is also good. Yeah. Because as you heard, Maya has been in a position, and I think the way that you did it, Maya, was great, because also you had some colleagues that stood up for you on that trade show that you spoke about, which is needed and fantastic, of course. But now we're in a situation. Let's talk about should the one that violate women, should that male or that man, should he just be sacked?
Will that resolve the situation?
Probably not. I'm just taking these off now so I can hear you again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
No.
You can't hear me? Hang on a second.
Okay.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes, you're coming through again.
Yeah. My problem is that I love these headphones, but they have too short battery time.
I know.
No. So my question is.
I think for the future, that what I learned from it is that you avoid getting into sticky situations. You quickly get a feel of a certain environment and atmosphere, or people that are just toxic. You get a feel for it. I think in your personal life you have that as well, in your professional life as well. And like I said before, I count myself lucky, because with the different clients I have in the industry, all the men have been extremely cautious towards me and very protective when they had to be. Even before I myself had any idea of what was going on. Last year, when we were at Label Expo in Brussels, remember when we went to trade shows?
Oh yeah, good old times.
It was a little bit dangerous on the streets in Brussels, and then the guys from Memjet said, "Well, you're in our hotel. Don't leave the trade show without any one of us accompanying you. We don't want to take the risk." I hadn't even thought of that, but they said, you're not leaving without one of us accompanying you just to be on the safe side. I greatly appreciated that. Other trade shows as well, especially abroad, when the end of the day came near, they said, what are you doing? How are you getting back to the hotel? What are you doing tonight? You can join us if you like. We heard the other stories, but I think I, for one, wanted to stress all the nice things that men in this industry have done for me throughout the years as well. So it's not just me too, but them too. And I want to reach out to them to say thank you for taking care of me all those years as well. So how do you move on? You learn, you live, you learn, you take it with you, and you try to do better in the future, or at least assess situations more appropriately in the future. And I think that's why I'm also very much in favor of the mentor program that Cindy mentioned. If we help each other out to quickly assess what kind of toxic situations could arise, I think that's an important tutor that you can pass on to newer generations, really.
Doreen, have you ever been in a situation, not personally, but know about friends or co-workers that have been in situations where you were the mentor for them?
No, I haven't been a mentor for them, but I had a question for Maya. Aren't you afraid that when you have these positive experiences with men who can bring you home to the hotel, that are also men who turn the situation into, well, I will take you home to your hotel, and misuse this situation?
Yeah, but I would never do that with a stranger. No,
Okay.
no, I'm just talking
Okay.
about clients or contacts
okay.
or a member of the press that I'm talking to. These are people that I work with, that I trust, and that I feel safe with. I would never go home with or go to the hotel with somebody that I do not know. Then I'd know.
Okay.
I'd rather take my chances with an Uber or a taxi than no.
Yeah.
It's a good question, because Doreen, I can tell you that I think it's maybe almost 10 years ago, I visited a small printing company in Denmark, and the sales person, I think she was the director, but the salesperson that I was working with, she said that she wanted to we could go in her car together to their bindery or something like that. And then she looked at me, and at first I thought it was a joke. She looked at me and she said, "But do you think we should drive in separate cars because I don't know you?" And I was just like, wow. And that is, but your question is very valid, because if you are friendly and you know each other, you will not consider that thing. But if you're total strangers to each other, even in situations like in business, you never know what could happen, right?
That's true.
So during
Also, I've heard of situations in which people thought they were familiar with somebody who, in the longer term, was starting the harassment.
Sorry, say that again, please.
So when a person first became familiar with a person, and they get to know each other, and then after getting to know each other, starting the harassment, because the lines were thinner, and they first tried to gain your trust, and then using that trust of you in situations.
That is a terrible situation to be in, and I think that unfortunately, that is one of the things that is very difficult to have in the Me Too quote, because this is it could be kind of stalking, it could be some kind of almost rape kind of thing, or planning, or anything like that. So I think that if people are trying to abuse a friendship like that, that is where it becomes really, really dangerous. And I think that it will affect your life forever, because if you can't trust people that you thought you could trust, and then you end up in situations where you have no opportunities to say no. I agree. You hear these stories. I have fortunately never heard about them myself from friends I know, but you hear the stories, and that is, of course, very, very serious. I would like to take the discussion a little bit back to situation maybe in work relationship, because as you heard in the first sessions, Maya's colleague Cindy, she also said that she sometimes have inappropriate sexual kind of orientated jokes in a work sphere. I don't know Vihabo very well, but I think you are a company with a lot of fun as well, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Do you also have jokes among men and women that is sometimes inappropriate, but because you know each other, you accept them and you find them funny, or?
Yes, maybe they're sometimes a bit ambiguous. So yes, there are such kind of jokes, but then you laugh it away, and I don't take it very personally. But yeah, there are people who can take it personally.
Okay, so sometimes you would sometimes think that some of the jokes you hear in your company is a little bit over the line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think my wife, she thinks all my jokes are over the line.
It also depends on the person who's telling it and the tone of the joke.
Yeah, of course. So that means that basically when you refer to those kinds of jokes and the person saying them, it's actually because of the delivery, maybe crossing your personal level, but maybe not if it was somebody else that said the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a great example on how difficult this topic is, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What do you think, Maya? You make funny faces.
Yeah, there are sometimes so many sensitivities at play. It's hard because you don't want to say it's a subject that you have to raise, but on the other hand, like all the other ladies before us said, you have to keep your sense of self. Your sense of self is what makes you as a person, as a professional partner to interact with. Yeah, you have to keep your personality. You are the norm by which you judge yourself and by which you judge others. So, and who said it? Was it Midi that said you treat others the way that you yourself wish to be treated?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that you have to keep in mind for yourself every day, for others, for your children, however life pans out. There are so many sensitivities at play here, and you don't want to generalize for all the men. Hence my comment earlier. But it's the issue about trust, Jorien. I hadn't even considered that one. What happens if trust gets abused? That's horrible.
That's a horrible one, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I can't help think about that when we talk about, for example, these things right now. Can't help think about I mean, again, we talk about the consequences and the flirt and how that could develop, and I think that also Nidhi said that you choose your social groups because you associate with them mentally or joke-wise and things like that. And if you are in a very small workplace, it must be very difficult if you feel like an outsider, right? I mean, let's say that you have a religious background where you don't have the same kind of liberty in your whatever, right? And you are the only one in that company with that. I think that sometimes I would feel alone, right? And that also goes, let's say that you are the only gay person in the company and everybody knows it, but they have like kind of, obstacles towards that or whatever it could be. I mean, so every time that you when Nidhi talk about these social groups, I think that to some extent it must be difficult to navigate, especially in smaller companies, because in larger companies, if you always find somebody you can relate to, I think. Or what do you think, Jorien? Is that something? I mean, how big? I can't remember. How big is Vihabo?
Vihabo now has around 100 employees.
Okay, so you can pick
I've worked in smaller companies as well.
Yeah.
And there the lines are a bit tougher to cross when you, which person you trust in your story and telling your story. And in a bigger company, you mostly have a trust person you can go to when you have a problem or something like this. But in a smaller company, I think it's very hard because they know all of the employees. They know all the people within the company.
Mm.
And within bigger businesses, you don't know every single person.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Jorien, you and I, we're going to continue the talk, but Maya, thank you very much for joining us here in this conversation. I really appreciate your friendship and your support and everything you do, and especially your time here on this today. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Morten. We have to trust in the good and move forward. And thank you for opening up the conversation for everybody. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed.
Nice to
Have
meet
a
you,
good day.
Maya.
Okay.
And you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Doreen, now it's you and me.
Yes.
Yeah. A question, not a question.
Yeah.
First, I want you to, because all the others are so famous ladies. you're the newbie here. So tell us a little bit who you are and where you work and what company you are from.
My name is Doreen. I live in Os. It's a small city in the Netherlands, and I work at WeHabo. That's an online printing company based in Geffen, and communication and marketing officer.
Okay, and we got to know each other in a very odd situation because we were doing an HP film, and I couldn't get the train, so I was doing it on a cafe in, I can't even remember the city right now, Frankfurt or something like that, and it turned out pretty good. Anyway, I still owe you the full English version. That we will get to that, I promise you.
Yeah. I'm very curious to that.
But your company is quite interesting because first of all you invested during the pandemic, which was the reason why we met you. But you also you make personalized chocolate, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we work for Tony Chocolonely, the famous chocolate bars, and we print the wrappers, which you can personalize in your own design. So you put your order in the chocolate shop online, and they send all the orders to WeHabo, and there we press the wrappers, and then we cut them and we wrap them around the original chocolate and then send it to the customers.
So you would say that you are one of the few printing companies in the world that smells of chocolate?
No, I don't smell chocolate every day. No.
Okay, that's fine. This was, of course, a little joke, and it was kind of, to get to loosen up a little bit and to understand a little bit about you and WeHabo. When I sent you the invite for this event, what was your initial thought about this?
I was surprised to see it because I couldn't link like the English and me too, and I had to read your email before I understood which way you want to go with the conversation and the importance of the conversation. And also good to see that there are more women who want to talk about this subject and make it discussable. I think that is very important. That everybody knows that there are situations of sexual harassment on the workplace and also outside of the workplace. But I think it's very important to show that you can talk about it and give you like the handles to make the discussion open in your company as well.
I can tell you that when I suggested to do this and I spoke to my colleagues about it, they were like maybe more or less the same as you were like, why should English take this discussion as part of our delivery? And I can tell you that we have been supporting Girls Who Print in America since we were founded 7 years ago, and we have made films and videos about the Girlie Award that will be awarded to a very progressive woman later today in American time, where we will also make an interview with that person. And for me, when you have, like yesterday was International Print Day, today it's Girls Who Print Day, and we have sometimes the opportunity to move away from technology, because we're often talking about money, and we're talking about business, and we talk about technology and all these kind of things. And I think that when everything comes down to earth, it's a question about people, right? It's how we actually interact with each other. Your company's success is not based on the HP investment. It's basically based on your skill sets and the people working there, right? So that was the reason why I thought this was important to talk about, and that is it's a bit of a tough subject, because what should you say? I mean, if you like Maya have experienced something like this 15 years ago, first of all, the time has changed since then. She has matured, she's grown up, she is of course 15 years older. But it's like with everything, I think it's a matter of learning, and what I wanted this discussion to be was, and I wrote that also in the prospect, was like, listen and let's talk, because if too many people don't talk, we may not get to the point.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
Is this something that you talk about in your company, the Me Too movement?
No, I work at WeHavo since June, so I've never had a conversation, and also in Corona.
Yeah, so you never met anybody.
So we never started a conversation about such topics, but I think it's very interesting to see how the opinions are in the company, because there are so many different people with different backgrounds, and we all have our own opinion about it. So, I also don't know if there is ever been a situation in which a colleague is harassed, or I don't know about that.
No. I was a little bit curious because since you are relatively new to the company, I was wondering, when you look at the company like yours with 100 people, it's a quite okay sized company. Do you have an HR department, or is it, because as I remember from our interview, it's a family-owned company, right?
Yeah, that's true. And we have an HR department.
Yeah. So if there was any incidents or anything like this would be something where the HR department, of course, would be involved in this kind of thing. But I was just thinking, do you think that maybe based on this interview and because you participate in this, do you think this is something that they will think of taking up as something where they should formulate a strategy on how to make sure that you have gender equality and equal salaries and how people behave with each other? Or how do you think that this will take on?
Yeah, we have rules, not really rules, but more guidelines how to behave within WeHavo, what is accepted and what not. So you can make a joke about something, but not if it's crossing a line. But I think those lines are different for everybody, and you can write down those lines for everybody in the guidelines. So I think it's very important to give people the voice to speak about, well, this is my line, and now you're crossing it. But I think a lot of people don't have the tools of speaking up for themselves and how to do that. So
that
I
is
think,
a challenge.
With training and chats, if you invite some employees in groups, well, now during COVID it's a little bit
yes,
more difficult, but if you invite people in groups or maybe in a training and you start a conversation about it, and you get some guidelines what to do in a situation, I think that will be very helpful.
That is definitely true, and I think that maybe when things get back to normal, also in our part of the world, maybe these conversations can help to start that discussion within companies, right? And that maybe answers your question why we're doing this in English, because the graphical industry, I mean, just in Europe, there's more than 600,000 people working here. So it's a relatively big industry, and I think it's important that we can have these discussions, male and females, and different cultures and different ages and things like that. So that was my reason for doing this session. So did you see everything so far, or have you just seen some of it, or have you followed since the morning?
I've seen some. I put it online since the morning, but
then you had to work as well.
Yeah, I had to work. Yeah.
That's great. We are a little bit ahead of time, but do you want to add anything to our conversation? Otherwise, I think it's been great having you on board. Anything you would like to talk about?
Not really,
Not
no,
really.
because the subject is a little bit far, yeah, not really far away from me, but it's difficult to come up with a situation where we can talk about, and maybe that's a good thing.
It is a good
I'm
thing,
sure it's
right?
a good thing, yeah, but
yeah.
as I say, as I said to Maya, well, sometimes you can mistrust people in those situations. I think it's most important that there's awareness and we make it able to discuss.
So at least we.
And this is
yes.
the thing. How you can do this, yeah.
At least we got that agenda set today, right? So we got the opportunity to talk, and hopefully a lot of people will see it, and hopefully it will inspire people to talk even more. So yeah, Joreen, I just want to thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you in real life at some point. Who knows? Maybe.
Who knows? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you as well.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.